he went to the National Post, which we all know is a right-wing propaganda bought and paid for by right-wing pundits in America, but this is where he decided to go because of course it is.
Reporter at the National Post Ottawa Bureau. I'm joined by U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is great to be with you. Thank you.
You come to Ottawa after a pretty historic meeting earlier this week in Washington between your president and our
This is from May 8th.
Minister. Canada is describing this meeting as a restart of the relationship. How would you evaluate the meeting, and would you agree with that assessment?
I thought it was a great meeting, reaffirming the friendship between the United States and Canada, but a restart or a reset, no way. I spent 18 years in Congress. I was chairman of the intelligence.
No way? Did he say no way? United States and Canada, but a restart or a reset? No way? He doesn't think that that's what that was? Yeah, he's the ambassador. Yeah. Fucking Trump named this dumb motherfucker the ambassador to Canada, and he's done nothing but fucking offend us since he got here.
No way. I spent 18 years in Congress. I was chairman of the Intelligence Committee. I'm well aware, and also coming from Michigan, of the strong economic relationship. From the Intelligence Committee, I well aware of the Five Eyes relationship and those types of things. The friendships across the border. I have family that lives in Canada. So you put that all together and say the foundation is phenomenal. We are great friends. We have been great friends for such a long period of time.
Oh my, we've been great friends for such a long period of time. Great friends. I would like to remind everybody that America seems to have forgotten that this is the second time they've done this. This is the second time that they've tried to attack Canada through tariffs. Because when did they do it last time? 2016! Trump already did this. You're already on try number 2. It's over, brother. You actually think that we're your friends still? I don't think so.
Going to change those personal relationships. You're not going to change those economic relationships. Now,
my brother in Christ, those economic relationships have been drastically changed. Drastically. There are next to no and getting lower and lower and lower percentages of American products on Canadian shelves. Let alone the economic devastation that America is facing from the tourism industry. The tourism industry is about to hit fucking bottom. You're going to have so many people and areas and restaurants and tourist destinations that turn into ghost towns over this summer. And on top of that, military. The American military-industrial complex is taking a massive hit because guess who's not a part of the Europe rearmament initiative? America. And you know who just joined in on that? Canada. You want to know why it took us so long to join in on that and it wasn't immediate? Because we had an election. It would have been done 2 months ago, but we did an election. So we had to wait until we were done. You would think that somebody who's going to be an ambassador of the country that they're in should know something about the country that they're being the ambassador to. So, like, if Hoekstra is gonna be the ambassador for Canada, he should probably know something about Canada and know how absolutely fucking petty Canadians are. We will not forget, and we will fucking never let it go. There's going to be digs about America. If America turns this whole train around tomorrow, Canada's not gonna just go back to buying shit. You're looking at like 50 to 100 years. You're looking at least one generation, if not 3 generations, of being actually a consistent good partner before you start seeing that attitude turning around.
National security they were never in jeopardy. Is it a little bit of okay, let's get over what's happened the last 90 days? Yeah, we did that. Okay, but the relationship...
Yeah, let's just get over the fact that you're still punching us in the fucking head and you had to be told by the fucking law that the thing was illegal.
from my perspective, and I think from the president's perspective, was never in jeopardy.
It does feel like that friendship is going through a little bit of rocky times on the economic front. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the president has promised the American people in the election. He promised that, there would be a reset on some things, not specifically with Canada.
So now he thinks it's a reset, or he doesn't think it's a reset? Oh no.
But in our economic relationships with people all around the world, the president campaigned and said in a lot of areas, he strongly believes that America has been taken advantage of, that the trading relationships haven't been fair. So
the trading relationship that he negotiated and he signed.
He took a global approach. And when you take a global approach, yes, Canada falls within that. Some of the folks have not liked that approach. But it is what the president campaigned on, and he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
I don't recall Trump campaigning on the idea that he wanted to alienate America from literally all of its allies. I don't remember him saying that.
What do you think needs to happen for the U.S. to lift its tariffs on Canada?
Well, we announced, the president is in the process of announcing today a significant trade agreement, one that will happen within the first 110 days of the president being in office. Under his leadership, we're announcing an agreement today with the UK. I think this will kind of be a template.
There was no agreement made with the UK. That didn't happen.
How we go around the world. I haven't seen the details of
What the fuck does that have to do with the question? The question was, what would Canada need to what needs to happen with Canada?
Of it yet, but from the preliminary indications it covers automobiles. I think we've got some kind of automobile relationships between the U.S. and Canada. It's going to cover aluminum and steel.
If you make a deal with the UK about automobiles, it has nothing to do with the Canada and America automotive industry. That's a deal with the UK, even if it did happen. Maybe he thinks that Canada is part of the UK. Does he think that Canada is part of the UK? Does he think that a deal... What a blithering idiot.
Wow, check the box, all right? That's something that we have an economic...
I do not expect the National Post. So if you notice that I'm probably not going to call out the National Post for not, trying to hold his feet to the fire, is because it's the National Post and we already know they're not really going to. These questions are fine, but the fact that they're not pressuring him tells you everything you need to know.
Economic relationship with Canada. It's going to talk about, supposedly it covers the digital services tax.
How the fuck does the UK agreement that doesn't exist have anything to do with Canada? I munch in disrespect.
Wow, check the box. That's one of the things that we in America are interested in taking a look at and discussing with Canada because of the services tax that Canada will be implementing I think, at the end of June. What do Canada and America need to do? Do what we've done for a long time. Talk, and I think what you saw on Tuesday with the President and the Prime Minister is they talked, they listened. I mean, the scrum in the Oval Office, okay, with the media.
Yeah, that was definitely Trump listening. That was Trump listens to fucking anybody, right? Taco Trump. Yeah, look how ugly this fucking thing looks. It's awful.
Media hollering at the president and at the prime minister questions. But when you got into the luncheon, for an hour and a half, you had the president.
Way to admit that your country has no control over the decorum of your media space.
And the prime minister doing what they need to do. They talked. They showed each other a tremendous...
We did see what fucking Carney said when he came out of that meeting, right? He did a press thing afterwards and he was just like, whatever. No deal was come to. It's just the fact that they established that they're able to have a conversation. That was it.
Tremendous amount of respect, and most importantly, they listen to each other. Okay, I think the president clearly listened to what the prime minister had to say, and the prime minister clearly listened to what the president had to say. They got a feel.
Our guy listened. Your guy was like, never say never.
For who each one was. They created as much as you can in 2 hours, the beginning of a relationship that I think can be positive, that will go after tariffs. And as the president said, is there any one thing that the prime minister can say today? It's like, no.
That's not what Trump said. That's what Carney said. Trump just went on like a fucking inane ramble, and then Mark Carney popped in and was like, this isn't a one thing issue. This is a bigger issue than that. And the point is that we're able to have a conversation.
Is there an agreement that can be had that increases prosperity, safety, and security for both countries? Absolutely. Yeah.
So this template, the trade deal the president is announcing today with the UK, that can be a template for Canada?
I think that's very funny. Like the idea that there's this template that exists and America's just going to apply it across the board. One size fits all. Very Americanized. Very, very industrial. And Alicia makes a good point. Trump doesn't have a drop of respect for anything in his body. Yeah, you're right.
And we'll have to see the specifics, right? We haven't seen the specifics. All we know is they're covering the same issues.
Right. How far, judging from what you saw on Tuesday in your discussions, how far do you think Canada and the U.S. is from striking some kind of a trade deal in this vein that would deal with some of these issues?
Yeah, taking the president's, some of the president's words and also some of the, some of the language that came out during the luncheon, okay? On the 51st state.
We don't know what came out of the actual luncheon. We only know what was part of the press release.
It takes two to tango. Never say never. Canada's not for sale. Okay, what did we do on Tuesday? We put the 51st state discussion. It's done. Okay, the president clearly acknowledged it takes two to tango. That's behind us. And it was never a barrier to discussing these other issues.
It's behind us, guys. The 51st state talk is over. May 8th.
A few moments later.
I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of a fabulous Golden Dome system, that it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer.
And so those will be, now begins the framework. I think what happened on Tuesday, getting back to your first question, not a restart, but it allowed us to put behind us some of the last issues, okay? From the president's standpoint, 51st state's not coming back. The president may bring it up every once in a while.
51st state's not coming back.
But he recognizes it's not going to happen unless
51st state's not coming back.
Unless the prime minister engages with the president.
Does the president and his administration understand the effect his comments are having on the relationship with Canada and how Canadians feel when they hear him make that comment, whether they think he's serious or whether they think he's joking, whether they think it's real, whether they think it's wishful thinking? Does he understand the effect those comments have on this relationship in Canadians?
I'm sure he did. The president's a smart guy, okay? But from my perspective, I think the president, that's behind us, okay? Let's start working on the issues that are most important. Let's make sure that we establish a fair, equitable relationship between the U.S. and Canada. And the issues that they talked about. They talked about the economic issues. They talked about fentanyl, okay, which is an issue that both of our countries are very concerned about. The possibility, they didn't use these words, but the possibility of, if we work together on fentanyl, let's make North America a fentanyl-free zone. Canada and America We're losing.
Oh, yeah. So, back to Kash Patel blaming fucking Canada for fucking fentanyl shit. And also back to, fucking excuse me, to Canada from the United States. America is to Canada as Mexico is to America. However, I would like to point out that Mexico has been doing fantastic lately, and Canada has invited Mexico to the G7 meeting, or the president of Mexico to the G7 meeting, and she is considering the offer.
Way too many of our Canadian citizens and American citizens each and every year to fentanyl. The president wants to stop it, and I think that he saw with the minister the indications and some of the actions that Canada has already taken, which the Prime Minister outlined as being very constructive in building that partnership.
So where's all the fentanyl coming from still? Where's the trafficking coming from still?
In this Fox News interview, FBI Director Kash Patel putting the blame on Canada.
On a variety of different criminal enterprises, and they're going and they're sailing around to Vancouver. And I don't care about getting into this debate about making someone the 51st state or not, but they are our partner in the North. And say what you want about Mexico, but they helped us seal the southern border.
But latest data from the U.S. CBP shows 6.3 kilograms of fentanyl were seized at the northern border last month, a fraction of the nearly 300 kilograms of fentanyl intercepted from Mexico.
The Prime Minister brought up a commitment to dealing with some of the military obligations and national security obligations that Canada and the U.S. face. So,
What do you mean? You mean military obligations like your agreement with Ukraine? Like those kinds of obligations? The obligations to like the world, to the UN that America has been signaling that they're going to completely be pulling out of? And like humanitarian rights obligations like Gaza, where the ceasefire that was proposed and brought to the UN was vetoed by America? Those kinds of military obligations? Or is he just talking about how Canada and everybody else on the planet is abandoning fucking the American military industrial complex, especially the fucking F-35 deals?
There's some work to do, but it's not like there's this huge chasm that we have to overcome. I think we can get there relatively quickly, but the president's very busy right now. All right, we got the trade agreement with the UK. His team is flying.
They did in fact not have an agreement with the UK.
Flying to Switzerland, I think, either today or the next couple of days to have negotiations and discussions with China. The president is going to the Middle East on Monday for a number of conversations, but those things will work, and it's just a matter of getting into it. We're negotiating.
Those things will work. It's just a matter of getting it.
With Japan, we're negotiating with India, South Korea, Vietnam. There are at least
Sure you are. You have a citation for that?
Press reports saying that significant progress is being made in all of those issues.
I guess my last question for now is how much of it is a priority getting a deal with Canada? I mean, the president has a lot on his plate. He's kind of taken a global approach to this issue of tariffs. So, resolving things with Canada, where does that fall on his priority list?
Well, it's a priority, but we just started. In that, you just came out of an election, all right? And that, so there were no discussions going on, but the president wasn't stopping. Okay, the president has an agenda. He has secured our southern border. He's working on this massive tax package, which we think will be good for our economy. He's opened up
the massive tax, the one that is cutting Medicaid to give billionaires a tax break. That tax package. Yeah, no, they just started. We've had a long history and a long relationship, but it's not reset, but it's definitely negotiations have just started. That doesn't answer the question, by the way. The question is about the priority, and he's not answering, because He's just using it as an excuse to spew additional propaganda.
Energy. So he's got a very aggressive agenda. But I think, within 8 days of your election, the prime minister is in Washington. He's in a meeting with the president, with the vice president, with Rubio, our Secretary of State, with Lutnick, our Secretary of Commerce, who's leading the economic discussions, with Greer, our trade representative, and also with Susie Wiles, who he describes as the most powerful woman in the world. So, the president had everybody in the room that needed to be there, and I think that you should, I would look at that and say, wow, it's clear the president sees Canada as a priority. He didn't take 3 weeks or a month or 2 months to have a meeting with the prime minister. It happened, before you even have a government that is formed. So it's kind of like, no, I want us to.
Mark Carney was the prime minister for months.
I want to get a measure. I think the two leaders wanted to get a measure of each other. They wanted to set a tone and a tenor for their teams to follow, which I thought the tone and the tenor of the meeting was very positive in that it was respectful. The president talked about how much he loved Canada, how he's got friends on both sides.
He fucking talked about how much he loved Canada so much that he named a Russian hockey player Canadian because he's a moron.
Sides of the border, I saw a reciprocation from Mr. Carney, and so that watching the two interact for 2 hours, I think sent a message to both teams. Time to get to work. Let's get this done.
We'll see what happens next. Thank you for joining,
thank you.
Ambassador, and thank you for watching.
A few moments later.
In the campaign, I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also.
As soon as he stops reading the script that was written for him, he just starts randomly saying random bullshit.
So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. Canada wants to be a part of it, which be, fairly small expansion. But we'll work with them on pricing.
He thinks that adding Canada to this will be a small expansion that he proceeds to describe as a small expansion costing $61 billion.
Dealing with them on pricing, they know about it very much. They've asked to be a part of it, actually.
They know about it very much.
They've asked us to be a part of it. I think it's something that is great. If you can afford to do it, we can afford to do it.
Yeah, so everybody, that's the U.S. ambassador to Canada, fucking Pete Hoekstra. It's a fucking goof. I drank all my beer, and I don't have any more, and I'm not gonna be buying any for a little while because I was drinking a little too much. And I gotta get something.